was a symbol. Spyder's back! That's just having some fun. Haven't played the drums in quite a while. I played eight instruments, and I'm going to put a CD up soon. Wild Spyder that I did a few years back, quite a few years now, over 10 I think, and I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to put it. I did an album. I wrote all the material myself. I played 8 instruments, and I composed it, produced it, everything homemade. It's called The Art of the Spyder, and my artist name is Wild Spyder. Okay, that's Oscar Wilde, so Wild Spyder, and Martini Y. So a lot of people encouraged me to do that. So I wrote all the material myself and did it all myself. And anyway, I think I'll do it. I think I'll do it as well. Even though I'm trying to promote my CFL Red Zone rule, but I think I'll do it. So you could check that out probably in the near future as well under Wild Spyder. Okay, The Art of the Spyder, the name of the album. Okay, so anyway, I'm back after those 3 candlelit, well, actually it weren't candlelit, sort of candle light type lighting that I did, 3 sessions. And you know, I got very passionate about what's going on in Halifax with the Atlantic Schooners. I mean, it's embarrassing really, and I'm very passionate. I got really upset, and I'm sorry I got really excited. And you know, when I get in that mode, I just can't stop. I just get so frustrated with these clowns, seriously. So, and I'm actually embarrassed to be a Haligonian, really and truly. I mean, 57 cranes, one of course that fell down. They just took the last piece off, the Hurricane Dorian. But I'm embarrassed, really and truly. Being a property tax, you know, owner and property tax payer, like many property tax owners and payers in Halifax, been waiting decades, like I said in my last session there, waiting decades for a CFL team and a real CFL model stadium. We missed out in the Commonwealth Games. Peter McKay said that. Peter McKay was running for the Conservatives. Nothing good annual share. I went to see him, but you know, I just think the Conservatives have no voice, and I'm not a hypocrite. I actually voted for Justin Trudeau's father, but I want to get into politics. I didn't vote for him for many reasons, because I don't believe in any Prime Minister using our money to buy votes. I don't think he's done anything economically for our country. Never mind getting into politics. Don't want to get into politics. And by the way, imagine when the Conservative government was in power and federally, they gave us all the Navy ship building contract, and then Trudeau comes in. Can you imagine this? We're building the ships, spends $230 million of taxpayers' money. Imagine to build the proper facility to build these Navy ships, and Trudeau comes in and takes 75% of the service contract away on those ships that we're building, our expertise we're building, and all the money spent on that facility to have them built, and they're starting soon, another year or so. And he took the 75% of the service contract away and gave it mostly to Quebec City. Can you imagine? And they still vote for him here in Atlantic Canada. I mean, in Nova Scotia, where he won 10 out of 11 seats, because you know, he's buying votes, you know, with our money, and he's winning. Okay, but it's unfortunate, because I really believe the city of Halifax. If you look around this city and around this country, with him in power, and I just wish it was somebody else that was in power that was liberal, that I could respect a lot more. Our city has gone way downhill, big time, and so has our country since Trudeau's been in power. And I know there's a lot of Liberals and NDP people here, and you're going to hate me for this, but I'm sorry. I vote for, I think the best man is. And maybe Scheer didn't campaign, he's new at this game, and he didn't really sell himself well enough, but Peter McKay, I think, should have been the man, and I think he would have done a lot better, and he could have probably won a majority, because he's a good man, whether he's a Liberal or a Conservative or an NDP, seriously. I mean, Peter McKay's a good man, and he's from down here, so naturally I hope they would support him, and the rest of the country too, because he's very capable of doing a lot better job. And he's not as political, and he's not going to buy off CTV and CBC like Trudeau's done. You have the Conservatives have no voice. I was coming back my car a few days before the election, and the CBC radio, they ran 8 straight ads of liberal ads running down the Conservatives. It was brutal. I shut it off. I wouldn't even watch CBC most of the time, especially nationally. I support local, but you know, they got to play the game too, But anyway, I'm sorry about that. I didn't want to get into that because it just wasted 6 minutes. But anyway, I got it off my chest. Just like I got the stadium issue off my chest with these, disgraceful city councils that we have down here. And I want to make some corrections from our last recession. One, when I talked about a better location for the stadium rather than Shannon Park, and I know that's political, and the feds, but the feds, they own the lands, but Trudeau hasn't come up, step up the plate and put money into infrastructure. He hasn't done anything. So it looks like the whole thing's going down, especially with the councils that we have down there. I went over that in my last session, but I meant to say Halifax Mainland Commons. That would be a really good site, like Dartmouth Crossing. Mainland Commons is up to Bears Lake, and it has a brand new terminal there, bus terminal. And there's main highways there to get in and out. It would be a better location than Shannon Park. Okay, the roads are there, all the services are there. The terminal's there, the highways are there, and they could just concentrate on putting most of the money into building the stadium, and then they could build a $130,000, $140,000 million stadium, a real CFL model stadium that could proudly host the first ever Grey Cup game in Halifax, which would be gigantic for our fast-growing capital city, and bring in over $80 million economic benefits and activity. And Mayor Savage, I have to say, I'm ashamed of you as my mayor. You're not showing leadership. You were had an article interviewed on Halifax Today magazine, Metro, and you were pessimistic. And you're not even taking the lead in this. You're not getting together with the Premier of Nova Scotia, who's a liberal like you, and Trudeau, who's a liberal. 3 levels of government. If you can't get this done now with 3 levels of liberals in power and all 3 levels of government, it'll never happen. So that's how political they are. They're playing the political game, and they're all about themselves, and it's true. And I also said I get mixed up. Out-hit, his name is Outfit. Imagine, you could easily say Outfit, one of the council. He's brutal. He's such a naysayer, and he's absolute disgrace, just like Mason and Sean Larry and many of them. And it's Hit. Actually, his name should be Idiot. That'd be a lot better. And they're so hypocritical, because I can guarantee you, like Wayne Mason for downtown core in Halifax, he represents the councillor for downtown. Coswell, interchange. If they were to knock that down, they want to put the stadium there, be all for it. Be all for it. But he's the guy all for bicycle lanes and streetscapes and so forth, and there's drug panhandlers all over our streets. It's brutal that they allow, by the way. It's brutal. It's ruining our city big time. And other cities don't allow that. Calgary, many other cities, Quebec City, Moncton even, they have bylaws. And for Mason to go on like today saying, oh, panhandling. By the way, it's drug panhandling. Mason, Councillor. I wouldn't even call him Councillor Mason. Mason, it's drug panhandling, and you can do something. You can bring a bylaw in. And you say it's the Canadian Supreme judges. They're probably all liberals. That's why. But still, how does all these other major cities not allow drug panhandlers in their streets? So you're wrong. But it's ruining our city, and it's ruining the image of our city big time. And they're all over intersections, and it's disgusting. But getting back to my main topics here on my CFL Red Zone rule and what's going on in the CFL on the Atlantic Schooners, I just want to check some of my notes so I'm on track here. I only have don't have a lot of time here. I wasted too much time on politics, I'm sorry, but there was just an election. So I wanted to get my views out there. Okay, on the stadium issue, I wanted to talk a few other things. Yeah, okay, I did that, so I guess I've covered it, what I wanted to say on the stadium. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say, yeah, and imagine, I said this in my last session, that Sackville Counseling, by the way, there's too many councils. They have enough to bring this down, and they will, because they're all a hypocritical bunch of naysayers. Because if, like I said, if one of the North End councillors, Smith, he wants a $60 million or more. It could even go up to high $70 million, but to short 50 to 60 million to renovate the old Halifax Forum, that is crooked. I mean, it's in really bad shape. It should be torn down. I mean, you go there and there's rats. It's so old and so, run down. It needs to be replaced. And you know what? I'll say what I'll go on. I went on the Rick Howe show this morning, and I got it right here. Here I am talking about it.
I was talking to my neighbor about this, and he said the same thing. They're all about themselves, because you know what? And this is something unbelievable. I couldn't believe. Sackville's council was sworn on the first day. He wanted to kill the stadium. Can you believe that? And Mason, if the stadium was going to be downtown, he'd be all for it. Same with Smith. Smith went $60 million. That's what it would cost to renovate the Halifax Forum. If they were going to tear that down to the stadium, they'd be all for it. They're all hypocritical. And one last thing. My son went to, he's got Stampede season tickets. I'm going to the Grey Cup. He only watches the CFL like me. I don't watch the NFL, but he went with his buddies to Dallas. They went to the Dallas Eagles game, the NFL game. He said the passion down there, the love, the respect, the way they promote their product and get behind their product. And he was talking to Americans about how we run down their own product in their own country. And my son, you know what he said? He said, there's not another country. And by the way, the councils were doing this. They're running the CFL down. They were, like you wouldn't believe. In our own country, an institution of our own brand of football, 107 years, my son said there's not another country in the world, and the Americans were talking to my son about this, that would run down their own brand of CFL 3-down football in our own country, but our country. And the councils did the exact same thing. Well, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Edward, I appreciate the call and the passion with which you support a stadium, but again, when it comes...
And Rick Howe's not a bad guy, but at least he's doing something to cover the stadium. But he's a liberal, and he's very political too. He doesn't want any of his taxpayers' money. But look at the our taxpayers' money that has gone into hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of products. 4 pads, $50 million in the last one. The one before, $40 million. 65 in the library, 50 or 55. Million in the Canada Game Center, because they had a water problem there. $80 million Prim McNeil is going to put in an art gallery for the waterfront. $130 million it's going to cost. Can you imagine? Tens and tens of millions of dollars put into bike lanes. Okay, the Dartmouth Sportsplex. You're not going to believe this. Almost 50 million. Over 40 to 45 million. Almost 50 million put in the old Dartmouth Sportsplex to renovate, and they don't want to put anything in the stadium. You know what? It's unbelievable. I'm embarrassed, like I said before, to be a Haligonian, to live in this city. It's unbelievable. I'm disgusted with them. Mayor Savage, you are a disgraceful mayor, and the councils you're all disgraceful. You have no vision. You can imagine not wanting this huge opportunity to happen for a city, a 10th CFL franchise in Halifax, the amount of economic money it would bring in every weekend for a CFL game, for a CFL playoff game, and the only stadium that needs to be built, it's a real CFL model stadium that could proudly host a Grey Cup game. Can you imagine what a Grey Cup game would do for our capital city? The first ever, it'd be the biggest event ever staged in our fast-growing capital city of Halifax. And the first Grey Cup ever in Atlantic Canada. Imagine how that Grey Cup would be huge. You probably could sell it twice over. But you have to have 40,000 seats. You need 25 to 27 permanent seats between the goal lines. Okay? Permanent washrooms and concessions with skyboxes, club seats and restaurants and a schooner shop. Not outhouses and benches on one side and a temporary tacked up structure and a permanent half the stadium on the other side. You've got to be kidding me. That's why it's 94 million. It's probably even less than that. It's a piece of junk. It's a rinky-dinky, embarrassing, bare-bone little Mickey Mouse little piece of garbage. It's not a stadium. What is that? Anyway, an outhouse stadium? What do you call it? You know, bring in the outhouses, man. You know, okay, if you got to go, go to the outhouse, right? Plug your nose, man. Come back, okay, and come back in a makeshift stadium. It may fall down. If it's windy, it may fall down. It's not even windy. It's an absolute embarrassment. And Mayor Savage, you're an embarrassment. And the city council, you're an embarrassment. And you're a bunch of hypocritical, bunch of naysayer councillors. And you're only about yourselves and what you want for your district. You're not about what we want, the majority of people. And by the way, the survey was done, the majority of people and taxpayers that are property tax payers that own properties that want a CFL team and a real CFL model stadium built in our fast-growing capital city of Halifax. 57 cranes in the air. And by the way, I said in 10 years, it'll be 500,000. No, in like 6 years away, it's going to, there's 11,000 increase in population last year. Okay? So yeah, it's going to be 500,000. It's 400, almost 440 now. It's going to be that in 5 or 6 years. Not 10 years. They're predicting, I think, 10 years, 520, 530. I get my facts right and get the numbers right. And by the way, talking about facts, this is the place on Spyder CFL Red Zone Rule you find the real truth and the real facts about what's going on in Halifax with their state. You know, the way they treated, by the way, the LeBlanc group, they ran them down, they took shots at them, they're running down the CFL own brand of our own brand of CFL football, an institution, by the way, and historical. Can you imagine? And our Grey Cup, 107 years, and what is Rita McNeil? Rita McNeil, yeah, pre-McNeil. At least Rita McNeil, when she was alive, I guarantee you, I don't know why she came into the equation here, Rita McNeil, but I used to support her, and that's what you got to be. I didn't run her down like a lot of people. This is what's wrong. Like there's something wrong with the rhetoric. Like my son was saying, there's no other country in the world, and there's no counselors, and I don't even think in Canada, really and truly, but here, that run down the CFL and not want a CFL franchise and a real CFL model stadium that we could be proud to sit in, by the way. And a stadium, a real model CFL stadium that could proudly host the first ever Grey Cup game in Halifax in Atlantic, Canada, that would run down our own brand of CFL 3-down football in our own country. It's unbelievable to think this. I can't believe it. As a proud Canadian, I just cannot believe this. And I just can't, I will never vote again for these councils ever to vote them out. And I hope everybody that when they bring this down into September, because that's exactly what they're going to do. They wanted to kill it last week, and it was close. They needed 2/3, but when it comes to a real vote to be canned, they have enough. I heard Adams on, he's another one. They're all the same. There may be 4. That's what Mason said, and he's probably right. That's how bad these councillors are, and we got to vote them and get them out, and get Mayor Savage out too. He's a liberal political hypocrite. You know, and Matt Whitman, he's going to run, but imagine he's a hypocrite too. He put his deposit down to Schooner, Atlantic Schooner tickets, and he's against it. So this is what we're up against. We're done. We're doomed. Like one guy said, we're effed. And also our city, the way our city looks, all the, drug pen and everything, and litter and criminal graffiti, everything. Like he says, we're effed. And the city and the stadium and the CFL team. There'll never be anything ever here. No one will ever come here. It's a small town. They're small town thinkers. They're not even thinkers. They're baked, man. I'm telling you, there's something really wrong with these people. They're so egotistical, so into themselves, and what if it was their district, they'd be all for it. They're not for the majority of people want this in the whole of their city. It's not about them and their district. It's about Halifax. Okay? It's about the 440,000 people in the city, the majority of people that want a CFL team and a Grey Cup game in our fast-growing capital city of Halifax. Anyway, I'm done with that. I only got like 7 minutes left. I want to talk about some other things here, but I am really pissed off. And I have lost all respect for you, Mayor Savage, and the councils. I have no respect for them. I don't know. There's not even a word in the dictionary to describe them, how I feel about them. It's unbelievable. They're a disgrace, really, a disgrace. to our city. Anyway, I just want to talk a little more about what I was talking about before about how the CFL, I mean the Ottawa Red Blacks, how bad they are, and the Toronto Argonauts and the attendance and everything. I mean, Montreal's getting 15,000, whatever. I mean, they got 24,000 seats. I mean, but same thing happened, but their team is better, but their team went down, like down the tubes. And all this stuff, you know, when the Ottawa Red Blacks became really successful, what happened then is Mark Cohen was still commissioner. And when Ambrosi came in, see, here's I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the real truth here. When Ambrosi came in, and when Mark Cohen, by the way, would never go to one-year contracts. But when Ambrosi came in, because he belonged to Canadian Players Association, okay, and he's basically the commissioner for, and he's not the commissioner for the CFL, or the CFL fans, or any new generation fans and NFL only fans that they should have, that they don't have. He's for the Canadian players and the Canadian Players Association. He doesn't care about the CFL. And he lies. He lied on his Randy Roach trip. They were complaining about the one-year contracts, no continuity, and that's exactly what happened to the Ottawa Red Blacks. You can thank Randy Ambrosi for that. Ottawa Red Black fans. The commissioner. Oh, he's Canadian. Play the Canadian players. So yeah, no, play Canadian. The CFL as a guaranteed Canadian racial alignment. But he belonged to the Canadian Players Association and fought the CFL in court when they wanted to get rid of the Canadian starter ratio to allow the best available players to start and play at every position for an entire CFL game. And you know, Rick Campbell said too, 24 top Canadians are down in the NFL. That's a full team. I want to make another correction. I said that's a half a team. My last session, that's a full team. And by the way, Randy Ambrosi, since he's been commissioner, everything has changed. He brought in the one-year contracts, right? He made it even worse with the global players. We'll take away an American spot, not a Canadian starter ratio spot or a Canadian roster spot. Take away American spot and American starter spot. That's how bad how political he is. And nothing happened. The Canadian starter ratio hasn't changed. And this is why the Ottawa Red Blacks are so bad. And this is why the Toronto Argonauts are so bad. And the BC Lions are so bad. Because there's Canadian players that are playing in the CFL, and you never get anybody more Canadian than me, that don't belong, and they're only there because of Canadian starter ratio, and they have no business being on the CFL field, and they're starting. And there's better American players that are sitting on the bench that can't start, okay? And they're getting all the money because their agents are, you know, they got gone against their GM, not literally, but and the coach's head, because they know that they have to force their hand because they have to start and play them. And half the roster have to be Canadian. That's another huge guaranteed Canadian roster ratio. Okay? Half the team, and with backup. So they got them. So they get a lot more money than the American players. When the American players are better. In a lot of cases they're better. Okay? And getting back to Winnipeg, and I mean, I'm a Gassou fan, big time. I like the Winnipeg Jets. I want to see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers win the Grey Cup. But it doesn't matter what team. If you're cheating on steroids, or other players could be cheating on that team too, that are juiced up, that aren't getting caught, I'm going to call it. It doesn't matter if the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Calgary Stampeders, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, the Ottawa Red Blacks, or the Toronto Argonauts. It doesn't matter what team. I'm going to call you out on it because it's cheating and it's not fair. And Ambrosi, you can add him to, yes, Dave Dickinson's right, the Canadian Mafia. You can add Ambrosi to that. He's the commissioner. No, he's not. He's the commissioner for the Canadian Players and the Canadian Players Association because he was one of them. Okay? Just like Keeping and Ramsey, Keeping is the president. He's a guaranteed Canadian racial alignment. That's what makes up who runs the Canadian Players Association. Same with Ray and Ramsey. Same with Ambrosi. They're all in bed together. Okay? And you saw the results in the collective bargaining agreement. The owners got screwed. The Canadian players and the Canadian Players Association got everything. And look what's happening. Look what's happening. The one-year contracts and 130 free agents, and 30 free agents, or 28 or 27 free agents per team. So all teams are all depleted, like they're practically depleted, except for Saskatchewan bought all the free agents. That's why they're so good. And Calgary's Grey Cup team, that's why they're doing it. It's totally depleted. And Dave Dickinson, at least he's one that says Canadian ratio problem. They got major problems with Canadian ratio, like other CFL teams have. Okay? And with one-year contracts, it's destroyed the CFL. And Randy Ambrosi, you have destroyed the CFL. And the Canadian ratio has destroyed the CFL and it's killing the CFL. And by the way, I want to say something also in the Winnipeg Blue Bomber game. I was right. They're going to screw the Stamps. The Stampeders have to win by quite a margin to win because the referee's going to be against them. Because you know what? And Brosey wants, he does. He wants the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and he wants the Saskatchewan Roughriders to be in the Grey Cup. And why, when you want your host team to be in the Grey Cup, by the way, Mr. Brosey, wouldn't that be great? Have the Stampeders in the Grey Cup? Only a few teams ever hosted and won it. Wouldn't that be great? Oh no, you don't want that. And by the way, there was a dirty late headbutt hit on referee standing right there in the Blue Bomber Stamps game, right at the end of the game. That would have drove the Bombers back almost to the 5-yard line. Would have been 2nd and 20-some, and there's no way they would have got out of that, and the Stampeders would have won that game. They got screwed. They got screwed in that game because, and Brosey, you're involved in this with the CFL. You want to screw. You've been screwing the Stamps all year. And by the way, Mitchell's right. Doesn't matter if he's the Stampeder. He's right. If the Bombers are being screwed like that, or the Saskatchewan Roughriders, they would be saying the same thing. It's pretty obvious. And so they're going to get their wish. The Stampeders are not going to be in the Grey Cup, in their own Grey Cup at home. So I'm going to sign out now, and I'm probably going to go back on with another session because I want to say some more. Okay. Take care. Okay, I'll be back.